Dear participants, so we have a live streaming on Facebook. So if you want to share this meeting, you can do it right now.
Hi, everybody. Have I just heard that everybody's joined? No? Okay, got 1 more minute. Okay, so it's now 4 o'clock Almaty time. I think we'll start this webinar. So thank you everybody for joining today. Today is our webinar is for the creative industry. The topic is creative industry in modern days, and it's how the pandemic has changed it, and what we think is new and coming in the industry. We have 4 speakers today. We have in order John, Marat, Gareth, and Kaisar. And after our speakers, if you have any questions during the talks, please type them in the chat and we can go through any questions and answers at the end of the webinar. Okay, so I think we'll start. I think we have a good number of people here already. So our first speaker today is John Farndon. He is a well-known writer. He's done books on science and nature for children. He's a poet, a songwriter. He's a translator, and has won the 2019 EBRD Literacy Prize and was the finalist for the US Pen Translation Award. John is also the chairman of the Eurasian Creative Guild. So John's topic today is beating the retreat and how writers can respond to the pandemic.
Hello there, good morning, or should I say good afternoon to those in Kazakhstan. Yeah, for those who don't know me, as Tim said, I'm chairman of the Eurasian Creative Guild, and I'm also a writer and translator. And I'm going to talk from a personal and general point of view, because I think later talkers will talk from more specifically and concrete. So I'm going to say, well, in some ways, us writers have been comparatively unaffected by the pandemic. Writing has always been a solitary activity, and so a lockdown doesn't interfere much. It's business as usual. But of course, that's not really true. First of all, my life was never entirely solitary. Seeing plays, creating gatherings of musicians and poets, traveling to events, seeing and conversing with friends and family was always a part of my life and my creative life. With all that sapped away, one's creative connection, one's soul connection is altered. Periods of quiet reflection are always important to a writer's life. A garden shed to get away from the hurly-burly of the world was always the writer's friend, metaphorically, if not physically. But I feel as if I've been padlocked in the shed with just a somewhat irregular meals left outside the window. I was never an introspective writer. To me as a writer, it's always been important to engage with the world, to write about what I see there rather than about what happens in here too much, though of course they're profoundly connected. But the point is, I have been deprived, like so many artists, of a lot of mental and spiritual sustenance. Secondly, it's important, I think, for an artist not to ignore what is going on in the world. When so many people in your community, both close and distant, are ill or dying, the whole world needs to become focused on physically surviving the drive and purpose of creating changes. Much art can seem trivial. Issues and themes which seemed so important to write about before can suddenly seem trite and somewhat insensitive in the face of such a crisis. So you ask yourself, what is my purpose as an artist? So this is maybe what I'd answer. First, of course, art is essential entertainment. In this time of crisis, the ability to escape from the realities, to have one's heart lightened, one's mind distracted, one made to laugh, is absolutely vital. People could not get through without it. Can you imagine no silly films, no comedy, no music, no TV to while away the hours? It would be impossibly grim. Our lives were filled with art of all kinds, highbrow and lowbrow. And in the pandemic, it's been an absolute lifeline, the tonic that helps us get through when things go wrong. Of course, that's true in all times, not just in the pandemic. Second, art has an even more crucial function than just entertainment. The arts are absolutely crucial to the health of the individual and of society. A society without arts would be a dead society, a cold society, an inhuman society. The act of sharing, the act of creating for others is what creates bonds between people and always has been. It's no accident that our first identifiers of human culture are works of art, paintings on rock, tens of thousands of years ago. Art became before everything we associate with culture. A society with a rich artistic life is one, I believe, that is vibrant, healthy, outward-looking, inventive, essentially happier. It knits people together with shared experience, shared understanding in a way that nothing else does. It's no accident either that people used to sing together working in the fields or on ships, or that people natter happily about the latest episode of Bridgerton or Game of Thrones. Art is at the heart of our mental perception of the world and those around us. And by the same token, it's central to the health of the individual too. We are all creators and receivers of art. Some create more than others, some less. It's a two-way process. We give and we get back. But as a receiver, I know that art has given me immense pleasure, enlightenment, comfort, without which life would be scarcely imaginable. If there was no art, I think we'd all become more paranoid and fearful, more anxious, and because we'd all understand less, know less of other people and ideas, we'd find less joy. There'd be much less of a framework for balancing feelings about the world. In a nutshell, art is the mental glue between society and individual. I just want to talk finally more generally about the situation for the arts in the UK, because I think it has some relevant lessons for Central Asia and Kazakhstan. Now, artists have suffered here immensely during the pandemic. Theatres have entirely closed, so actors and directors and all the other creatives have found themselves homeless and out of work. Musicians have found their livelihoods lost and their contact with their audience vanished as music venues closed, and painters cannot show or sell their work in galleries. And the level of support they have received is minimal. Venues indeed have received funds, but not individual artists. And now these artists face an additional issue in that Brexit will face huge difficulties for touring abroad, a vital part of artists' income. So the UK, which has been blessed by an extraordinarily rich artistic life, could find the arts blighted. Now, you might ask, does that matter? The arts, after all, are not essential, like food and drink and buildings. They're luxuries. Artists are not key workers, as the saying goes. But I think this is a very foolhardy way of thinking. As I said earlier, art is the glue of society. It's what helps us feel life is worth living, and artists are as important to a part of life as doctors. A society without art would be a dead society. So in these troubled times, it's important to do everything we can to keep the arts going. The arts are in crisis and we must support them all we can. But if that all sounds a bit pessimistic, I'd like to point out that artists are remarkably resilient, and so there's no need for pessimism. One of my other tasks is I'm a judge for the Off West End Theatre Awards in London. And last week, we held our annual awards ceremony, online, of course. And I'm going to share a link to it in the chat afterwards, so that I won't share it now, but I'll share it to you so you can have a look afterwards, because I think it's worth looking at, because it was an amazingly, exhilaratingly vibrant event, undimmed by a year of closed theatres, remarkably. So an astonishing 650 shows were submitted for judgment for the online awards. Shows were created in difficult circumstances to be viewed online, actors working by Zoom in separate spaces, and all kinds of inventive techniques. And the standard was amazingly high. The energy, commitment, talent, and sheer damned inventiveness of these creators was actually really awesome. Similarly, countless musicians have made a huge success of online performances. So the will is there, the creativity is there, But these visible successes are not enough. For all the artists we see making a splash online, there are many more watched by just a few, or struggling to get by financially, or not even able to get access to the internet. And online events, while wonderful and creating exciting new art, are no substitute for physically shared art, for live performances, for meeting people. You know, we would love this meeting not just to be online, but in the flesh. So this is what I crave, and I have many ideas for helping making this happen. But I've been speaking for long enough now, and so I'll say thank you very much for listening and hand the screen on to someone else. And I'd also like to offer my apologies because I have to dash off in the not too distant future to a doctor's appointment, but I'm looking forward to the contributions of others because I think this kind of meeting is really important. So thank you for inviting me to join you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's very interesting. It's very interesting actually to see how the UK have people in the creative industry has dealt with the pandemic. I mean, it's especially performing arts. It's very, very difficult because it does require an audience, and an audience online is not ideal. I mean, the chamber itself here, we've been setting up our own creative industries work group, and we've been working with people here. And we worked with the British Council and some other organisations, and our basis of our charter was actually based on the UK creative industry, because it is such a large portion of the UK economy, and we use that as a basis to estimate the potential in Kazakhstan. So while it's maybe not quite as developed here, it's some parts are obviously the performing arts and other things, but in terms of businesses and small businesses in the creative industry, it's it's still fairly early in its infancy, but we see there's a lot of potential. I mean, I myself I work in the creative industry, so yeah, I can relate to some of the points you've made in your presentation today. So thank you very much. Good luck with the doctor's appointment. So now we move on to our next speaker, who is Marat Akhmedjanov, who is works for the Hertfordshire Press and OCA magazine. So he's the vice chairman also of the Eurasian Creative Guild. And Marat's topic today is promotion of the national culture through book publishing in English and an international level. So we'll hand over to Marat now for your talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here today at this seminar, which is organized jointly by British Kazakh Chamber of Commerce and OCA magazine. As many of you may know, that OCA magazine is partnered with Eurasian Creative Guild, and John, who just gave his presentation, is our chairman for the second year. And before I'm going to talk about what we do at OCA magazine and Hertfordshire Press to support writers during COVID pandemic, I would like to show a very short video about what is Eurasian Creative Guild. Bajena, can you share the screen?
My name is David Parry, and it's a very, very great pleasure indeed to be involved with the Open Eurasian and Central Asian Book Forum and Film Festival. It is a unique operation linking Central Asia with the countries of Europe, and it has a very powerful, will have an increasingly powerful influence on our own cultures. I'm looking forward very much to getting more involved.
thank you, Bajena. I hope you enjoyed the short video about Eurasian Creative Guild and what we do. We unite people, and we're building the land bridges between Western world and Central Asia. So Eurasian Creative Guild was created over 5 years ago to promote Eurasian and Central Asian creative people. Initially, it was for writers to the Western world to help with translation, help with editing, design, promotion, and it grew up to a large international organization with over 2,000 members in 66 countries. And just to give a bit of understanding why Eurasian Creative Guild is very bright representative of British creative medias, I looked at the stats, and for my surprise, they 100% match who we are, who's Eurasian Creative Guild. So creative and digital media contributes £268 billion to the British economy, which is over 20%. It's the fastest growing sector of economy, with 10% growth every year since 2013. There's none other sector of economy that showed a steady growth of 10% for almost a decade. If we're talking just creative media, which include publishing and film, animation, design, and fashion, we're not talking about a digital media. In 2018, it was 111 billion pounds, which is almost 9% of the British nominal GDP. So it is a huge sector. And another interesting stats I got from British government website gov.uk is 90% of what creative media produced is for export. So the London and Britain became a hub for the culture development, for creativeness, for gathering the most creative people and kind of promoting them to international community. And if you look at the guild, it's exactly the same. So out of 2,000 members, we've got about 200 based in UK and 1,800 plus based in mostly in former Soviet Union, but also we've got quite a large representative in North America, and it's growing. How did pandemic affected us, which just means creative media? And again, there's a lot of similarities which I see. It's, as John said, did not affect writing. Actually, we've got much more writers joining the guild, because being a creative guild, we organize literary festivals, we organize literary competitions, which you've seen from the video, and we do them all around the world. We had 800 participants of our literary competition in 2019, and in 2020, when the pandemic came and our competition starts exactly in March, I was a bit scared. I mean, what's going to happen? Everyone is in panic. Our sales went 90% down. But to my surprise, we actually had more participants, more members joining during a pandemic. People started to write more, people had more free time, people started to share more of their writing and creativeness. So our participation rate grew to more than 1,000 participants from 80 countries last year, and we're expecting much more this year. Same with the book publishing. Yes, initially in spring last year, we had less book being published through Hertfordshire Press, but starting from August, we're actually kind of increasing. And in 2021, it probably will be a record-breaking year for us number of books. We started with the 5 books 10 years ago. Last year, we had 20 books. This year, we already have commissioned more than 35 books to be published. And it's been active. I mean, what we've done in the last 10 months, it's amazing. We not just keep publishing the OCA magazine, which we didn't miss a single issue. We created the new edition called OCA People, which is a special edition to promote the members. And it was so successful. So we're doing a second edition in 2021. And we're also doing 50 universities of Eurasia. So there is a demand. People asking, can we have more? And of course, it's shared now between digital and print, but people still are requiring print copies. What we also discovered during the pandemic time is crowdfunding. Again, everybody was saying, no, it's a crisis, people will have no money to share, but we tried. We tried to get the money for publishing a comic book created by Uzbek-born artist based in UK. And the comic is dedicated to children with autism. It's called Ilish and the Wicked Tales. So on Indiegogo, we placed the crowdfunding campaign with the £5,000 target. And again, 99% of people who said, no, you will never reach it. We got more. We had 230 people around the world, including British stars like Tim Bentinck from Harry Potter, including the Matthew Savage, the jazz player from America. We've got celebrities, we've got royalties, we've got jazz students from Kazakhstan or all other countries supporting the project. And this successful project, we still promote going from place to place, and we're giving money which we collected to the local charities who deals with children with autism. Currently, we're doing a second campaign called The Final, the comic. Vazhena will share the link, so if you're also interested to support it, it should be most welcome. But our biggest project uniting the members, and again, it's proof that creative media is not giving up, is thriving, is really giving a hope to the people around, is creating our poetry almanac, The Voices of Friends. It took us 1 year to get it together. John was the main editor-in-chief. It's over 200 poems, both classics and modern writers from 13 countries, and it's all in English, so it's been a great, great effort. We just received the book, and when I'll come to Almaty, I also will do the launch. We also got Abai, of course, here dedicated to 175th anniversary. We've got, I think, 10 modern Kazakh poets who been included into this almanac. Again, how did the idea of the almanac came? We were inspired by Konstantin Simonov, who published the first almanac in 1973 called Voices of Friends, where he translated Central Asian poets into English, and by Faber and Faber, a poetry diary, which he published for 80 years, probably the most successful poetry diary in the world. So we combined these two ideas into what we call Voices of Friends. So if you look in the format, it's a Faber and Faber diary, but if you look in the content, is Voices of Friends of Konstantin Simonov. So by combining this, we created a wonderful, high-quality project with John. Hopefully will get his copy today, later when we meet in London. But again, even talking about the other industries, not just the poetry, we've been working very hard with translations. I mean, the COVID gave us the time to translate Bulat Isabekov into Swedish language. It gave us the time to celebrate online. It was very successful celebration of 30th anniversary of twinning between Stevenage and Shymkent, with the mayors of both cities being present. We're going to celebrate Navruz with OCA magazine and the founder of the first president of Kazakhstan on 17th of March, with a lot of people also supported by the guild. It gave us a time to translate our book, which we published initially for Expo 100 Experience of Kazakhstan. So we gave a second life by translating into a Slovak language. So it's available in Slovak. It's now in process of translation into Norwegian and Swedish languages. I mean, if someone will ask me 2 years ago, will I be doing something in Slovak, in Swedish? Will I even have a time for this? Will I be doing a crowdfunding for comic books? No. But with COVID, I feel kind of more inspired. I feel there's more work for us to do. Of course, it's not for each industry. Looking again at the guild, and it's 100% corresponds with British stats, there's a growth of 34% in music sales, online streaming like Netflix and Amazon. The book sales also increasing, but unfortunately the visual arts and performing arts went down. But again, because probably this industry will need to adapt more to online work with it and also go into the mixed medias. And we're looking forward to support it. Like, for example, we will be doing a fashion show during our short film festival, 27th, 31st of March. Of course, if the British regulation will allow, but it will be a mixed media. So we'll have up to 30 people, which hopefully from 17th May will be allowed by Boris Johnson in a room, but we'll show on the screen and we will translate, same as we do now, to Facebook and other social media, more presentation and what's going inside. And when we are doing a similar Zoom meetings, we gather few thousand. I mean, our record breaking was 12,000 people watching one of our seminars in social media. Thanks to pandemic, we've got over 100,000 subscribers to our social media in LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So there is a boom. Of course, it has its negative sides. Unfortunately, due to COVID or related to COVID, we lost 21 members of the guild, mostly of them in Kazakhstan, 13 of them in Kazakhstan. So it's been a tragedy for us. And we do remember it, and we urge everyone to take all the precaution measures and take care of themselves. But with the creativeness, it's really expanding. Of course, there's a lot of technical difficulties. But from 17th of March, we're looking forward to start organizing events, and the world will not come back to the old time. So we will have the mixed media and exploring the digital media, exploring online. It's giving more international access to our members to be involved into creativeness and to be connected with the world. It is what we do. We have much more books we've done. Just give more examples. I will not take much. So we did on travel books, Meet the Stans by author from New Zealand. Very successful book. Again, currently it's our bestseller. We sell at least 10 books every day. We've got interesting collection of short stories in Russian we did for the members. We did a huge coffee table book by Nick Rowan, the Silk Road Revisit would also include a large part of Kazakhstan. So we kind of proving that United Kingdom is the hub for creative medias, and we exporting 90% of what we do by using London and UK as a center of distribution, center of marketing, and giving access to over 2 billion people who speaks in English by translating and works of our members into English. I think Gareth might add more. He also created a few books while on pandemic, and we publish them, and they're also quite successful. And every member is involved. Of course, we do have a bit of a problem with a bit older a generation who's not using internet as much as we would like, but we're trying to gather more young interns and supporters who will teach them, who will support them, and who will be able to involve them as much as possible. And of course, we're all looking forward for pandemic to finish, so we can, with our new knowledge and new inspiration, get back to the field, do more events all around the world, not just in UK. With OCA magazine, which has been around for 11 years, it's most established printed and online media on Central Asia in UK. Our magazine read by members of Parliament, House of Lords, FCO, Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan, Iran, America. I'm always surprised when I get a new subscription confirmed it comes from like Kensington Palace, apartment number 10, other places. It's good because it means Central Asia is an interest for the Britain, and we providing a high quality content for them to subscribe, actually to pay the £45 for subscription. We're using OCA magazine also as a tool to promote Eurasian Creative Guild and our activities. But of course, we have quite a lot of content on economy, on politics, on society. And I think I will end up with this, and I will ask Bozhena to show again very short video about OCA magazine and pass the floor to the next speaker.
came across this magazine when I was a student, and I was wondering what this OCA stands for, which is Open Central Asia. Later on, I was lucky enough to write an article about Marc Chagall's art. OC Magazine is a unique magazine which brings cultures together. This is the main purpose.
I've known Marat and the Open Central Asia magazine pretty much since the beginning, and would highly recommend it to anyone, not only the seasoned traveller, but also perhaps the complete beginner. It's a magnificent combination of business, culture, and social articles which really bring to life this amazingly vibrant and rich part of the world.
Open Central Asia magazine was founded over 10 years ago now, just after the end of the last financial crisis. And now, as we sit here today in a new era of uncertainty and turmoil, I remember back to what people said to us in 2009. They thought we were crazy. Why did the world need to see anything from Central Asia when we were so busy battling with our own lives and recovering from the financial crisis? But in fact, there had never been a better time to bring out such a magazine that would bring to the fore the relevance of Central Asia today for people both from Central Asia in Europe and those in Europe who might be interested in going to or transacting with Central Asian from a business perspective. So we've always been keen to bring the opinions, issues, news, events, cultures and traditions from Central Asia and now even the Eurasian region as well.
Thank you, Marat, for that presentation. It's a very interesting Eurasian Creative Guild. You've been established for 5 years. You already have 2,000 members. That's very, very impressive statistic. Also, the sort of statistics on the UK economy for creative industries are very impressive as well, and that's quite interesting. So thank you very much for that. That's good to know. So our next speaker today is Gareth Stamp. Gareth is originally from the UK, but he's been living abroad for the last 12 years. He's been in Kazakhstan for 9 years, and then he's been in India and currently in Bulgaria. So Gareth's background is in the education sphere, but he's diversified into other areas, and he's talking today about how Kazakhstan can use the experience of the UK's creative industry. So Gareth, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's a great honor to be here. And a lot of what I'm going to say is going to echo what John has already said and what Marat has said. And I hope I'm not going to touch on any other speakers' toes too much. Although I am better known as educationalist, I am an artist and an author as well. And I started out in the arts and then went into education. And my passion has always been creativeness and actually encouraging other people to be creative. When I first went to Kazakhstan, which is now 12 years ago, I was aware that the arts didn't seem to be very high on people's priorities. They weren't in the psyche of the normal Kazakh person. And although there was a big push for cultural awareness and tradition, it was very much looking backwards, not necessarily looking forwards. I think actually in the last 10 years, the visual arts in particular have undergone a renaissance in Kazakhstan. Lots more new styles emerging, lots of young artists coming through. And I had the privilege to work with and to support a number of those artists while I was living there, and I still do now. I think that the arts have been slowly creeping into normal people's psyche, as I say, through things like street art and projects and arts festivals, which are becoming more popular in Kazakhstan. Certainly when I went there, I did feel that particularly Astana was very much a a bit devoid of its own original art. And I know that Almaty was traditionally the center of the arts in Kazakhstan, and where the art colleges and art institutions were. I was, first of all, in Kazakhstan educationally, and I went there to work on a project introducing new schools into the country, and also helped write the national curriculum for Kazakhstan that is now rolling out across the schools there. And when I started there, art wasn't on the national curriculum. It didn't exist. It wasn't even considered. Arts and music was something that people did as an aside. In fact, the traditional Kazakh arts curriculum actually stopped at the age of 7, and it became technical drawing. And the creativity within that was very, very limited. So I'm quite proud to say that I think I was the person that actually said, you've got to have arts in the national curriculum. And a group of us sat down with Kazakhs, Kazakh artists, Kazakh art educationalists, and helped write the national curriculum for Kazakhstan on the arts, music, and the visual arts. And that was actually a really interesting thing to do. It wasn't a blank canvas, because we knew there was tradition, we knew there was art there from thousands of years ago. As John said, you know, people drawing on cave walls. Well, Kazakhstan is full of petroglyphs and ancient art. So that was there as a starting point. And also the traditions and the cultures that have gone before do bring their own artistic and design features with them. I think as it moves forward, I think Kazakhstan does need to learn from other cultures, and you're seeing that a bit more now. You're seeing people become a bit more philanthropic and actually supporting artists. You're seeing more collaboration between different countries, between Britain, for example, and Kazakhstan, exhibitions traveling, which is a great thing. And I think that's actually something which needs to be improved. But I still think that the key to it is education. I would love to see in Nur-Sultan a major art college founded just for the arts, not something that tries to link it with other things. I think the actual pandemic, has already been said by other people, has given lots of artists a boost for them doing their own work, whether it's giving them time, giving them space, or just giving them the need to be creative, to actually escape from the being trapped in their own little world. As Marat said, yes, I did write some books while I was in lockdown in India, and they were published, and that they're available now. They're children's books in this case, and I illustrated the pictures for them. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't been in lockdown, because I needed that focus to get my head out of it. And I know lots of my Kazakh artist friends have found the same thing. It's actually made them more creative. It's made them actually get what's in their heads out onto paper, digitally as well, animation, all those things are coming through. And I think that people are inventive because artists are creative. And I think that's where it comes in. I think also the pandemic has given a boost to the Central Asian artists through online, being able to promote their work online to a much bigger audience. And I was interested to be talking to an American artist friend of mine the other day who'd come across some young Kazakh artists that I happen to actually know, and we were just discussing their work. And I know that he would not have come across them if he hadn't have been sat at home in his pandemic looking at art online. So I think there's a positivity of what's going on in Kazakhstan, but I do think that there is a need for building some things based on British traditions, based on British education, maybe. We have some of the oldest art colleges in the world. We have some of the oldest design institutions in the world. And I think that Kazakhstan in particular has the creativity in its people and the drive in its people to actually take some of those ideas and to push things forward. Yes, it will need supporting. It will need infrastructure. It will need a willingness from the government as well to actually invest in that sort of thing. And maybe having people with their own self-expression is maybe not in the best interest of some governments. But in this particular case, the crafts and the arts and the design has to be pushed forward. And it has to be pushed forward as a major industry. in Kazakhstan and in Central Asia as well. I think that I'll just finish with the fact that I think that, as I say, the Renaissance started about 10, 15 years ago, and I think it has continued. I think what will actually help that is to be cohesive and work together in collaboration, to actually get more rich people to support the arts and to support groups of artists rather than individual artists. And as I say, to develop the education of arts within the country and within the region. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gareth, for that. That's interesting. It's interesting you're involved in the national curriculum. That's a good thing. I mean, that is an area where I've seen there is room for growth. In my personal experience working in Kazakhstan, I mean, my experience here is as an architect and someone who's lived in the country for just over 15 years, is that performing arts and other areas are very well established. I mean, most of the cities, almost every city has a theatre and an opera house, and every person I've come across has learned music and has a very good understanding of some instrument at least. So that's fairly well established, but at a sort of personal level. In terms of education in my industry, I think there is definitely room for growth, and I think that the Bolshak program helped a lot, where people studied internationally and has come back and are now working in either in universities or in their own chosen professions. But I agree with Gareth that people are trying, and the university, I'm a professor at a local university of architecture, and we are changing the curriculum. We are trying to develop what we teach our students and be more focus on the creative side of design rather than the technical side. So I think there are lots of positive things happening, which is good. So I think that our last speaker is Kaisar Sarybaev, who's working for the mayor's office. He's actually the head of the department for creative industries in Almaty. This year he was just newly appointed. Before that he was a special advisor to the mayor of Almaty. And Kaisar's experience, I mean, he's from a very creative family background, from composers. He's been a musician himself. He's worked as producers and directors of a number of events, so is very well experienced in the industry itself. So our final speaker today is Kaisar, so I'd like to hand over to him now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Well, hello to all. So we have good news for all Kazakhstani people, for all creative people of the world, because in this year, the development of creative industry in Kazakhstan started as the largest city of the country, Almaty city. So at the 11th of February, the first and the only department of creative industry in Kazakhstan was created in Almaty. In 2019, Bakirjan Sagentayev, its mayor of Almaty, announced the priorities of the city development strategy until 2050, in which one of main key areas is the creative economy. On a meeting of the Maslihat, deputies supported of idea of creation of new department. So this department created in proper time, considering in the new world trends of creative economic development. The word practice demonstrates the deep integration of creativity in all sectors of economy, providing a rapid growth of added value in the face of falling of traditional economy of other economics. So the main mission of new department is to form creative environment that can preserve and multiply, create and reproduce the best practices in the field of creative industries, as well as provide a high demand for goods and services for the creative industries, and develop creative spaces. So we have several main goals for this time. It's one of main goals, of course, it's the increase of export component for the of the intellectual product. It's a very important factor to make a force for national currency. So main objectives of Department of Creative Industries is defined as the following. First, it's improving the quality of service of cultural institutions through the integration of information, educational and science technologies, along with the world best practice and experience. So second, transformation of cultural institutions into modern, multifunctional and client-oriented community centers with recreational and entertainment elements. So third is creating a climate to attract private investments and other fundings for the development of entertainment and creative infrastructure. Fourth, we need to improve tourism, investment, and culture attractiveness of the city. The integration into global culture space through the holding and promotion event brands, activities, and cultural products. So development of creative economy is one of the fastest growing sectors in the world. We can do growth of GPR of Almaty for next 3-5 years. Experience of developed countries shows that growth of the creative economy share GDP share by 10 times over the past 15 years. In some countries, the share of creative industries in the economy is equal to exceeds the share of traditional industries. For example, in Italy, the share of agriculture is 4 and 3 of GDP. It's lower than share of creative industries, that 4.9 GDP of whole GDP. So the Department of Creative Industries will not only help to develop creative activities, but it will also have a positive impact on the attraction of tourists to Almaty city. And the reputation of the country is our general too. These goals will be achieved through commercialization of the creative sector, development and intellectual potential and upscaling of creative production. So now Marat says about his Indiegogo experience. So I think when I was a creative interpreter, I tried to make a business with Indiegogo or Kickstarter, something else, and it's not too easy for our country. So I think we need to your experience in this crowdfunding platforms, because we need to show our creative businessmen how it works, because we have so many ideas and we can't realize it actually now. So thank you for your time. If you have any question, please.
Thank you very much, Kaisar. That's very, very interesting. Yeah, it's brilliant that we now have a platform in Almaty to help develop the industry. I mean, you know, we ourselves said with the British Council, the Chamber, saw there's huge potential for growth in this sector, and it's actually a very diverse sector as well. So, you know, there are many components within it that can grow at different rates. So, I think that's brilliant news that there'll be that sort of support network from the city administration. So I think it's a great time for Almaty. So thank you very much for your last talk today. So now we'll move on. If there are any questions, let's have a look if we have any questions.
Yeah, sorry. I would like to ask you, have you some interest in Kazakhstan musicians, Kazakhstan singers? Because as we see, last of our project, it's Kazakhstan project. It's like Dimash, Danelia Tulesheva is very interesting for the world auditions. So maybe now London or England production company interested to find some interesting people, some interesting entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan. We can help with it because it's our interest for our people grows up with some big industry.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I don't know myself here. I don't know if anybody else in the group here can comment on that. I'm just looking through the questions now. I don't really see any questions written down the chat that haven't been answered. If anybody has any questions, please let us know now for any of the speakers. No. Okay. So good. Well, thank you very much, everybody today who joined. Thank you very much for our 4 speakers. I think we've had quite a diverse selection of speakers from both sides of the UK and from Kazakhstan. I think that's very interesting, especially what's being planned in Almaty as well from what we're doing here. So that's brilliant news. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.